Looks like Matt Harvey had a cocaine issue.
Yeah, now we know. Matt Harvey's testifying in this trial for Tyler K., right? Who was
with the Angels.
Oh no, Eric K. Eric K.
Eric Tyler Skaggs.
No, he's testifying Eric K.'s trial because he supposedly allegedly provided the drugs to Tyler Skaggs, who passed away, got sick, vomited, and choked on his own vomit, which is it's sad when you think about
Incredibly sad.
But Matt Harvey had to testify in this trial, and he was asked multiple things about his substance abuse and the substances that he provided. And basically, Tyler Skaggs would ask him, give me something to feel light or
loosey-goosey is how he termed it, yeah.
And
While he's pitching.
While he's pitching, to go out on the mound. And so he's giving him oxycodone and Percocet. And then he's subsequently asked Matt Harvey, and this is to your point, why he never reached this fulfillment, what drugs did you use? And he basically said cocaine. And then they asked, well, did you lie to the Mets about the cocaine? He then says, they never asked me about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's
why I used the word complicit before.
Yes.
Potentially.
Complicit. And look, you kind of knew that this was, if you were in New York, either not athlete, but if you were a New Yorker, you'd see Matt Harvey out
a lot.
And sometimes in the middle of the day getting hammered. And it was odd. I remember this happened to me. I was down in the meatpacking district.
Go ahead, tell the story.
And me and Tracy were going somewhere, and I see him, and I was like, is that Matt Harvey? Like, he's sitting outside. It's not like he's sitting in the cut somewhere in the corner of a restaurant. He's sitting outside in the meatpacking district, right on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, the Mets have a game in 2 hours. What the heck is he doing here? And he's drinking and having a good time. And I'm sure he went over there, but he wasn't pitching. But it just was weird, right, to see an MLB star. At this point, he's a star,
mm-hmm.
just hanging out in the middle of the day on the day if they have a game.
I don't even think Dwight and Doc did that during the day.
Yeah. And so
they ran around at night.
And then like a couple weeks later, you started to hear a bunch of stories about Matt Harvey. Like he doesn't care right now. He's just partying. He's got this going on. He's got that going on. And it wasn't too long after that his career just in New York spiraled.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was just this massive shooting star. He thought he was the greatest thing in the world. And then it spiraled. And if you knew why. You know what I mean? Nationally, people didn't know why.
But we thought it was booze. Everybody positioned it as booze.
That's right. That's what I thought it was.
I mean, who does? I mean, obviously, people still do cocaine, but
yeah.
I mean, is that still the drug of choice? Cocaine?
I mean, apparently.
I mean, we saw Wall Street in the 80s. Cocaine's the drug of choice?
Apparently.
Really?
This is what he said, unless he was hiding something and just saying something that felt benign.
Cocaine's not benign. I mean,
know, but I'm just
marijuana is benign. Cocaine is,
but why would he say that? But why would he say that unless he was actually doing it? That's my point.
Because he's under oath.
That's my point.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's why he's want to perjure himself. I have not, full disclosure, I have not read, and I don't know him well. I remember he would join us on the Wheelhouse once in a while back in the day on SNY. I don't even know who Adam Rubin is writing for these days. Yeah. I honestly don't. But I know that he was, he was writing for, he was around the Mets every day back in the mid-2000s and a little bit later when I was doing the show. So he puts out this tweet in regards to Matt Harvey. Adam Rubin wrote, I'll say this and then I'll stop. The Mets told me a long, multiple O's, time ago, before anything like this was public, that they tried to help him, as did his agent, so they weren't willfully blind to what was going on because they were getting performance. Which obviously contradicts a little bit what Harvey said, that the Mets didn't really try to intervene at all. It is amazing. I mean, man, two of the most electrifying, and Nolan Ryan really became a star elsewhere.
Yeah.
And you think, Pedro came here when he was not quite Pedro anymore. We didn't see Seaver outside when he came back in '83 with the Mets, and he pitched on opening day, and he won number 300, with the White Sox against the Yankees in '85. Like, of all the great Met pitchers that came up, the two best, were they derailed by cocaine? I mean, Dwight Gooden and Matt Harvey.
Yeah. I mean, but
is this what it comes down to?
He was also derailed by his injury. Like, once he got hurt. Once he hurt his elbow.
For sure.
It was a different Matt Harvey.
I understand that, but were you not going to rehab because you were up all night? Let's face it, you take cocaine, you stayed up all night. You're not going to bed.
Yeah.
You bang a bag of Lord. And again, I'm not saying that for sure. I don't know if he was doing it, but it seems like everybody. Yeah, well, actually, he said he was doing it.
The point is,
so I guess we have to believe him.
Lots of guys have shoulder surgery. They have UCL surgery. They come
Yes.
back and they're mostly okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Ohtani. Look at Ohtani.
That's right.
So I don't know if you're up all night and you're banging back however many lines and you're drinking whatever to have a good night out. And we always know, the meatpacking was a spot that he liked. You're right. Are you just skipping out on rehab assignments, which maybe could have actually gotten you back to where you were before you got hurt? And in some instances, better. I don't know. But, man, that Matt Harvey chapter was a weird one.
Yeah.
Because when he burst on the scene, he was must watch. He was like, nothing will ever, the energy around Doc, and plus that team, that crazy team, that talented team. The 80s were a wild time in New York. I was a teenager when they won in 86. I was 12, 13. Like that Mets team, it was a different energy, a different time. You couldn't do in 2013 what you did in 86 because there was more cameras in. But apparently Matt Harvey was trying.
Yeah, I mean, he was.
Wow.
And it got him out of here. And, you wonder, according to Adam Rubin, what the Mets actually did try to, like, what did they, they said they tried to help him, but it was never public. So what were they actually, did they force him to go to rehab? I mean, they didn't, obviously, because we would have known if Matt Harvey went to rehab. Like, what did they try to do to help him?
Well, even the Mets, and I remember this in 87, I remember seeing it on the news, and I remember hearing it here. When he went to Smithers, it wasn't the Mets that forced him there. Major League Baseball forced him to go to Smithers rehab.
Yeah.
So, it's not like the Mets were on this white horse trying to save Doc. Everybody, you see all these old documentaries, and Hernandez was like, I can kind of see it in his eyes, and you kind of had, because he had been there. Keith had done that as well in the 70s with the Cardinals. I mean, users can identify users, and Keith has always been forthright about that. I guess when you're talking about 2013, I can't imagine that the clubhouse was overrun with cocaine users. So maybe you don't even recognize the signs like you would in the 80s when everybody was doing cocaine, or a lot of people were doing cocaine.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like Matt Harvey was he was the man.
Oh my God.
Right? So who's saying anything to him at that time? I got to go back. I don't remember that roster, but I remember you talking about this, BT, because of all the repertoire, his pitching repertoire, and how great he was. And I didn't know who he was, like you didn't know who he was coming in. This was 2013 when we first started our show, actually, on the national network. So I didn't know when you were talking about Matt Harvey who he was. Obviously, we all realized who he was over time. But in 2013, BT, the Mets roster was Ike Davis, Joe Buck, Daniel Murphy was there.
Danny Murphy,
David Wright. I mean, maybe David Wright would have had some influence on him at that point. David was in his 30s. He's 30, actually, that year. The staff, Dylan G.
Oh, my God.
Jeremy Hefner. Zach Wheeler.
Yeah. Young Zach.
Wow.
Yep.
Sean Markham.
Yeah. These are all names we talked about all the time back then.
He was 24 in that year.
24.
24 years old, Matt Harvey.
Listen to these numbers, and this is part of the article. So Harvey's average fastball clocks in at 94.7 miles per hour. I told you I was always a Fangraphs fan. I remember I introduced you to Fangraphs.
I was like, what is Fangraphs?
Yeah. And his slider's trending toward 90 miles per hour, which, by the way, is Randy Johnson territory. And that's rare. Also, unlike Steven Strasburg, who relies on just 3 pitches, Harvey brings 4 elite pitches to the table. He throws a hard change, averaging 86.4 miles per hour, and effectively uses a curve to alter planes and speeds, dipping that equalizer down to 82.1 miles per hour. So you want to know why was Matt Harvey great for that as a little streaking comet? He had elite stuff. He had huge stones, and the guy was fearless. And seemed like it was unfortunate. This isn't breaking news, although maybe the cocaine stuff is. But, the way he attacked the mound early on, it's the way he attacked his evenings. And apparently, based on what you saw that day in the meatpacking district, that's how he attacked his days as well.
No, you're right.
Man.
2.27 ERA that year. He was great.